On July 1, 2025, a 31-year-old pilot named Li Yuzhong entered the offices of China Southern Airlines Jilin branch. He confronted two of his supervisors, one from the union, the other from the flight division, and stabbed them both. Moments later, Li smashed through a window and jumped from the 14th floor to his death. This wasn't just a tragic personal story. It exposed a deeper systemic rot inside China's civil aviation industry, one where pilots are treated less like professionals and more like disposable labor. An industry where airlines pursue efficiency by breaking the very people entrusted with hundreds of lives in the sky. Today's episode dives into the shadowy corners of this tightly controlled industry. We unpack the invisible pressures behind Li Yuzhong's suicide, how airline management weaponizes safety protocols against pilots, why Chinese pilots describe themselves as flying slaves, and why this unchecked system is a ticking time bomb for aviation safety. Li Yuzhong was no ordinary pilot. At 31, he had already earned his command certification, meaning he was authorized to take full responsibility for flight decisions, an achievement that usually takes over a decade in China. He came from a dual aviation family. He was a pilot. His wife was a flight attendant. They had a 1-year-old child and what appeared to be a promising future. But something went wrong. On June 27th, during a routine flight, Li committed a Level 2 incident. What exactly happened? China Southern didn't disclose the details, but pilots across China told us that Level 2 events are typically minor: a small taxiing error, a slightly off heading during takeoff, or not following protocol with absolute precision. In most airlines, these are handled quietly or not at all, but China Southern treated it like a disciplinary crisis. They launched the flight recheck, a kind of in-flight audit. An inspector sat behind Li during his next few flights, taking notes on everything from radio procedures to hand placement. Unsurprisingly, they found problems. He forgot the cockpit door code, left a phone on, didn't perfectly follow emergency comms procedures, and more. The report listed over 10 issues. And with that, Li's career unraveled. On June 30th, Li was summoned to company HQ. He was told he would be demoted from responsible captain to cruise captain. In China's airline hierarchy, a responsible captain can make takeoff and landing decisions independently. A cruise captain can only fly during cruise altitude and cannot handle critical phases. This isn't just a title shift, it's a salary slash. A responsible captain might earn 1 to 2 million RMB per year, $140,000, 280. A cruise captain makes much less, sometimes half. But here's the catch. To be restored to full captaincy, Li had to fly 50 hours and 4 landings without incident. Sounds easy until you realize his schedule depended on the same supervisors he had just displeased. If they only gave him 1 short flight a week, that 50 hours could stretch into months. So, when Li showed up on July 1st to appeal this decision, and instead met with silence or worse, punishment, he snapped. He stabbed his supervisors and jumped to his death. When news of Li's suicide broke, a comment flooded Chinese social media. "Thank you for your mercy. At least you didn't crash a plane." It sounds cruel, but it reflects a chilling truth. A pilot in emotional crisis holds the lives of hundreds. The commenter meant this. He killed himself. He could have taken a plane full of people down with him. But he didn't. He was kind. This fear isn't unfounded. Many still remember the China Eastern Flight 5735 crash in 2022, where a 737 nosedived vertically into a mountain. To this day, China's Civil Aviation Authority has refused to release the full investigation report. Unofficial sources and leaked documents strongly suggest pilot suicide. So when a new pilot dies under pressure, the entire aviation world listens. To understand Li's story, we need to understand how pilots are made in China. There are two major tracks: Yang Chengxing, or academy graduates, high school students who enter flight academies like CAAC or Southern Airlines University; Dapgai, or university transfers, college grads recruited by airlines who then undergo training. Either way, training is intense, expensive, and deeply binding. Airlines often pay over 700,000 yuan, 800,000 yuan, $100,000 plus for pilot training, and in return, demand long-term labor contracts, some lasting up to 99. That's not a typo. 99 years. These contracts make pilots legally and financially stuck. If they quit, they owe astronomical breach penalties. If they want to work abroad, they need official flight hour verification, which airlines refuse to provide. In essence, you don't fly away from a Chinese airline. Ever. Every 6 months, Chinese pilots undergo simulator re-evaluations. Multiple captains describe these as the hardest in the world. Sim scenarios include dual engine failure, single engine return in storm conditions, hydraulics malfunction plus emergency landing, all stacked together. Inspectors sit behind, taking notes. One captain told us, if they want to fail you, they can. No one passes on the first try. One recent case even saw a pilot stab a simulator examiner, alleging unfair treatment. That's how tense and broken the system is. Why would airlines push pilots this hard? The answer is chillingly simple. Money. Aircraft lease, fuel, and airport fees are mostly fixed. The only flexible cost is labor, which accounts for just 5% to 10% of operating expenses. But squeezing pilots saves money, and demoting a captain back to cruise level or even co-pilot slashes salaries by over 50%. So airlines have turned safety checks into a budget weapon. Pilots say, flight audits can be used to demote anyone. No one's perfect. If they want to find something, they will. Even worse, some pilots report being assigned post-flight duties like washing the plane, just to further humiliate them. Others are forced into administrative shifts, doing clerical work between flight tasks far beneath their professional training. Not all pilots are equal. China's aviation sector is full of FY-A-Die, second-generation pilots, children of aviation officials. They're fast-tracked, protected, and almost never penalized. Same mistake, different outcomes. A flyer's son gets a second chance. An ordinary pilot gets demoted or worse. Even good flight routes, with bonuses for challenging airports or long-haul hours, go to insiders. Everyone else, they get what's left. In the late 2000s, China expanded civil aviation aggressively, recruiting pilots en masse. But by the mid-2020s, airlines were hemorrhaging money, especially post-COVID. Now they're cutting back hard. And the best way to cut? Slash pilot pay. What used to be a respected, stable, high-income job is now a stress-fueled, heavily surveilled, bureaucratically brutal occupation. More and more pilots are suffering burnout, depression, and disillusionment. Flying is one of humanity's most complex endeavors. We trust pilots with our lives, assuming that beneath the cockpit door is a calm, focused, well-respected professional. But in China's skies, too many pilots are flying under fear of audits, demotions, punishments, and ruin. Some, like Li Yuzhong, couldn't bear it any longer. Aviation safety isn't just about machines, weather, or protocols. It's about people. If those people are broken, no amount of policy can protect us. China's aviation system must change. Not just for the sake of its pilots, but for all of us who fly. Thank you. Thank you for listening. If this episode resonated with you, please leave a comment. Share with someone who flies often. Or reach out if you're a pilot with a story to tell. We need your voices before another cockpit goes silent.